How's it going, everybody? L Trickster here. Actually, this video is going to be my last of the long play for Lost Island. I know, everybody's sad, but the map's broken. Long story short. That's the short and skinny. So I figured while I have the dinos that I've tamed, I am going to display some of the actual gathering capabilities, harvesting capabilities of these farming dinos from my previous video, the alternative to the master gatherers. And right now I'm showing you what the trike is capable of. My rates for harvesting are 1.75. So they're not even boosted to the full 2 times harvesting rate, and additionally this isn't even a really good area to be using the trike, since there aren't a lot of trees that are just condensed into one area. But as you can see here, the results speak for themselves. Look at the thatch to wood ratio on that, and also the weight stat for the trike is halfway decent, at least. This one's not leveled up at all. It's literally freshly tamed. I was in the process of building out here because there didn't seem to be as many load zones or as much lag. However, even though that might be the case, the map in general is just broken. I wish somebody watching my video would give me the answer to all of my problems when it comes to ARK, but I hate to believe that there is no fixing the amount of brokenness that this game has. But yeah, I can give you a little crash course on the build that I'm doing right now. This would be my dino storage. So when you got an area that you want to build in, you put your feeding trough down on a foundation piece, you show the feeding ring, and then the diameter is, I think, 19 blocks wide, so 19 foundation pieces, and then it's 19 by 19, and I believe it goes 19 high as well, and if it was on water it would be 19 down too. Here I'm showcasing the bear and the gathering capabilities that this one provides as an alternative to the mammoth. One insanely debilitating aspect about the mammoth is its slow movement speed, as well as, unless you have a tribe member on the drums to keep the mammoth at unlimited stamina, the stamina regeneration on a mammoth is also ridiculously slow. Stegosaurus is probably faster and has faster stamina regeneration than a mammoth. But this is my process with the bear when I'm using it. You can see when you attack with the bear and go through all of its attacks. That one is R3. That doesn't really do anything as far as I'm aware. But the R2 attack, the L2 attack, you don't get any wood from harvesting with the bear. The trick is to ride the bear so you can keep gathering wood even though you are far beyond your carrying capacity. And you can see, as long as the bear doesn't have the concrete kettlebell looking thing, you can continue to harvest. Now there are some areas that this doesn't excel in. As you can see, I can't really hit shorter trees, but this is more so just to showcase the actual functionality of using the bear as a viable option for gathering wood. Now you can see the movement speed here is unhindered by the fact that it's almost at full capacity for its weight. And I'm just showing you, giving you a good idea of how fast it's going, and then I'm going to dump all the inventory so that I'm completely naked, and the bear has nothing inside its inventory, so then you can see how fast it is compared to when it has absolutely no weight on it versus almost maxed out. But before I do that, I'm going to show you the difference between having that encumbered icon versus just below having it. So I'm going to fill a bear all the way up until it has that, and then I'm going to take out wood until that icon goes away, and show you that it's night and day as far as having all of the bear speed or having none of the bear speed. But getting back to the mammoth and the stego, that in my honest opinion, it's just too much of a crutch. I would never use the mammoth without having trees close to my base, without having a tribe member, or without having the bug to carry the mammoth. I know there's the swamp tactic where you put the mammoth or a therizino on the raft and then ride it through the swamp, but you still need to be able to get the wood back to your actual base. So unless you live in the swamp, it's good in theory, but practical application, not so much. So it looks like I'm right on the cusp of the bear's maximum threshold before it gets that icon. So, yep, see? So I have that one extra piece of wood, which adds, I think, a half a pound of weight. I'm sprinting right now, and I can't move anywhere. So now I'm going to drop that wood, and boom. Unhindered movement speed. No matter how close the bear is to that over-encumbered icon. I'm just going to do another quick lap here, give you a good idea. But yeah, to fill you in a little more on this build that I have here. So what I do is, like I said, 19 by 19 for your floor, and then I'm just theorizing here, but I would say you could go 19 tall as well, and then that's where you could park your flyers on the roof, which is what I do. Although I don't go 19 tall, I just do a behemoth gate, which I think is like 16 high, and then the additional step that I do, which is kind of a nice little trick, is I leave this whole main floor open. I do one wall high, and then I enclose it all again by putting roof over it, so that it's essentially a one wall high giant room. And then this is where I keep all of my lystros, the dinos that increase experience points for dinos. I put them on wander under here. You have to make sure you either neuter some of them, spay some of them, or tame all the same gender. But then you just put them on wander underneath where all of your dinos sit for the feeding purposes. This is my feeding building. This is where I put all my dinos and have them all in one spot, aside from my fish eaters, because they always have their own feeding trough. But yeah, you just let those little guys roam around. Put all the stat points in movement speed. Come in here occasionally, give them a pet, let them go and do their business, and level up your dinos that much faster. I mean, it's not a crazy amount, but it's enough to make a difference. And for me, it's fun doing little builds like that. Some sort of creative idea things to throw out there while I'm going to cover some of these dinos in this video. We've got a long video ahead of us, so I might as well fill it with useful information, yeah? But I'm sort of just finishing off this last corner because this will all be in vain since I'm done playing this map. It just, there's way too many load zones, and I don't know if this map has just always been broken, or if this is a new thing, if this is a console thing, if it's always been a console thing. I don't know. I'm just here to tell you, I can't play this map. It's unplayable. It just is what it is. So, and you might be wondering why I build in a square versus a circle. I haven't mastered circular structures yet, since the triangle pieces aren't actual corner pieces, and I just, being the way I am when I play the game, I don't get too carried away with my structure designs, and I've never mastered the rounded edges and things like that. So I just make squares wherever I build, and sometimes I'll make little castle like silo looking things, but that's pretty much it. Now I'm in the prairie right now. I did find some decent horses to tame, and I have a bunch of dinos back at my base. I think I'm on like day 29, 28, 29, maybe 39. I can't remember. But I have 33 tames at the moment, and there's the demonstration of the bear when I'm completely naked, and the bear has no weight on it. So the bear was carrying virtually 0 pounds, aside from the weight of the saddle and the weight of maybe berries in my shoulder dino, but it has the same movement speed as when it's got things in its inventory and is carrying weight. That was just the little demonstration that I wanted to put on for you real quick. Long story short, with the bear, don't knock it till you try it. And when you can breed the bears, when you get to the point where you can breed the bears and really bump up that weight stat, this thing will give a mammoth a run for its money. And I actually wanted to cover that, the comparison with a beaver and the bear. So the bear can carry, my bear right now is at 1,400, 1,379 pounds. And a typical beaver will come with 400 to 600 pounds, and they get a half reduction, 50% reduction weight in wood. So instead of a full stack weighing 50 pounds, it weighs 25 pounds. Now when you do the math, which is simple, 600 pounds at half that, so if you just doubled it, the beaver could carry essentially the equivalent of 1,200 pounds of wood. Now this isn't taking into consideration using an RG and filling the beaver up beyond capacity with that little trick. It's just the 1-for-1, okay? A beaver versus a bear. So arguably the bear can carry more wood than a beaver at base values. Just putting that into perspective for whoever is curious about that. But I'm heading back to my base. You can see I unlocked a little bit more of the map. The ARK in me just wants to keep going, but I know this map is just a wash. It's just going to be a complete waste of time, and I'm glad I didn't get too far into it before making this decision. I would have hate to have bred dinos for the boss fight, and I know it's single player and you can spawn those things in, but it just takes away from the enjoyment I would get out of the game to basically just have everything dropped into my lap. Like, what's the point of even playing then? You might as well just go to the boss fight and then spawn like a car in the boss fight, or if you want to have fun with things like a wyvern or a yeti, things that you can't normally tame, and go to town, if you want to do it like that, where you just, well, I don't want to super breed Brexes, so I'll just spawn a bunch of them in. Yeah, I don't get it, so it's not for me. But as I'm making my way back to my base, which I did find a really cool spot to set up shop for my beginner, which is inside that castle structure there. This is my starter base, and obviously I'm not going to be able to finish my actual base since I'm throwing in the towel. Here's a neat little trick if some of you weren't aware. The shoulder monkey, the Megapithecus, I think is what it's called. Mesopithecus, that's what it is. They have a turret mode where they fling their feces, and it works much like the Chalicotherium in that it will slow their movement speed. And with that, with the Mesopithecus partnered with the bear, you can kill Alpha Carnos without even getting touched. Here's a neat little trick. When your bear is out of stamina, you can simply just hit triangle, because you don't dismount the bear, you just stand on its back. And then you can use your movement command to keep the bear moving while regaining stamina. You can also do that with the Megatherium, the sloth. You've seen the bear's weakness is obviously its swim speed, which I mean, realistically, it doesn't make sense. It's a game though, so anything can make sense the way that the developers had it in mind to make sense. But because a lot of people say that the bear should at least be able to climb halfway up redwood trees to get the beehives, because you have to build structures to get the bear up there. And I get the use for the bear and all that stuff, but it kind of feels like they just left a gaping hole in the bear's design, and they're like, well, we don't have enough time to make it so the bear can actually do that, so let's just throw it out the way it is, and people will make do, you know. But yeah, that's the bear's weakness, is it actually can jump, but it's not like an organic ability. You can't actually jump. However, if you run off a ledge from a higher area to a lower one, your bear will soar. So, but be cautious because they do take quite a bit of fall damage. Here's my base. Don't mind everything not loading in. I've had to deal with this since I got here. These load zones, it does not matter where I try to frickin' build things, where I try to stay inside this zone. It's just a hot mess of pixelated, unrendered, loading, lag, rubber banding, you name it. It's all happening, and these origami shaped frickin' dinos are just, it's not fun. Let's put it that way. Well, since we're back at my base now, I did want to demonstrate or showcase the saber-tooth gathering the flint, and I can show you my starter base. It's never much, my starter base. It's literally just the start. Here's my all-in-one storage bin. I find a max or near max level parasaur and put them on turret mode and dump every single stat point into weight, and that is my movable all-purpose storage box, since you can carry them with the RG. I know you can pick up the vaults with the new bug, but you know, taming a bug is not as easy as taming an RG, and building a vault is not as easy as taming a parasaur. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I just have the smithy, the forge, mortar and pestle, bed and sleeping bag, fireplace, and the fabricator, and the war map. I won't demonstrate the iguanodon, since I've done that in a number of my other videos, and really the only one I have to show, although I've got I'm just showing you all my dinos here, how far I've come, but not really getting too deep into the game. But I do have my alpha sprinter. I bred my raptor pair from the beginning, and I got decent stats, so I just kept the one and leveled up that movement speed. And this is my imprinted PT, not too shabby. This is just a wild RG that I tamed. Obviously I'm not going to get around to getting the mating pair and breeding them. It's a sad day. It's a sad day in the Lost Island. I didn't even get to make it that far playing, but this is the point of no return. Like, I'm not going to go beyond that line in the sand. Here's my bred saber-tooth. Now when you do breed them and imprint, you can get that weight stat remarkably high, and you don't really have to sacrifice a lot of stat points from where you might want to put it otherwise. It does a pretty good job as an all-around leveling mount. I was wondering if that wasn't even harvestable, but this is the real deal with the saber-tooth here, showing you firsthand how it's done for flint gathering. It does not matter how low to the ground the stone is. I think it might even be able, you might even be able to harvest those little outcrop looking things that are notorious on the beginning of the island map. It's the nodes that just look like little rubble, a pile of rubble. You little shit. Where'd you go? Oh, you got a friend too, I see. Where is that little shit? There you are. Another thing I failed to mention in covering resources and the harvesting dinos is hide. Now, I didn't cover this because I don't really feel like you ever miss out on getting hide, since once you get any carnivore, or be it a raptor, or a terror bird, a dilo, a moschops, you'll start to accumulate hide. And there aren't very many recipes where you need an insane amount of hide in a short amount of time, so you can just save it up over time. However, where I'm going with this is the saber-tooth actually specializes, according to the Explorer note, as a hide gatherer. And it makes sense because the way the Explorer note explains it is that it uses its fangs as filleting knives, basically. So it can fillet the flesh from the meat, and that's how it's explained in the Dozier or the Explorer note. But yeah, you can see here I'm just demonstrating that it doesn't really matter how low to the ground that stone, the rock node is, and obviously the ones that are above, it's all too easy. And this is just to prove my point that the saber-tooth is very useful as a tame. It might not be the strongest when it comes to killing or defense, but it's strong enough that it can handle its own when it's out and about gathering stuff. Much more than an Anky, if I care to make the argument. Yeah, so I honestly always strive to go for a saber-tooth before I do an Anky, for that hide ability, and obviously the movement speed, and the fact that Ankys are virtually useless without an RG. I mean, you would have to be literally insane to go riding around on an Anky across the map. I mean, they're just so freaking slow. So yeah, that's... Saber-tooth is my first rare resource dino, farming dino that I tame. And that's why I always unlock the saddle for it, even before I have the smithy or the materials to build one. Just because I'm always in that foresight of I'm getting a saber next, or I'm getting a saber soon before I do anything else. So yeah, fun facts all around. Fun, fun, fun. Lots of fun. I'll show you some of my breeding pairs. There's my sabers. There's my Dinopithecus. Those things are fun. Pain in the ass to tame. Obviously you have to look shit up like this, because I'm not about to take the full freaking day trying to figure it out, going through all the possibilities. So I try the KO, I try a passive, and then if neither of those work, I'm just like, you know what? I'm looking it up, because that's what it takes for ARK, baby. You know it. So I'm gonna ride my Dinopithecus. I'm going to bring you back to my original base, or not my original base, but my original starting point, because I did leave some dinos there. And there's a couple of things with both the snow owl and the griffin. Now I'm going to refer to the maneuvers as I would be using a griffin, since I tamed a griffin first before I tamed a snow owl and realized the snow owl has the same ability. Now there's two tricks that you can use with the snow owl slash griffin, and the nicknames I gave them is the griffin skip and the griffin slingshot. And I'll demonstrate those for you. That's the slingshot. So if you point your nose straight at the ground and leave it there, you'll do a ground slam attack. If you pull up, like playing landing on a runway, and that's the griffin skip right there. Sorry to interrupt myself, but the griffin skip is essentially the griffin slingshot, but on an edge, and you have to hit it at just the right time so your dino still has that momentum built up. But like I was saying, you pull up last second so that you avoid the ground slam attack. Your dino keeps that momentum, and then as soon as you press X, it will shoot itself forward like a slingshot. And the skip is self-explanatory. It just skip to my loo, and the skip actually doesn't use stamina. So if you're on top of a mountain and you hit that sweet spot and use the skip just right, you can make it a quarter away across the map without even touching your stamina. It's a nice little trick. Almost back to my starting zone where I left my raft and a couple of my starter dinos. I did end up taming a Sarco. That was my very next tame after all those raptors, and I completed the trifecta. I tamed the Iguanodon, I tamed the PT, I tamed the Sarco. And snow owl feces is a lot of fertilizer, so I think it even dwarfs fertilizer. There's my Dilos, my 3 raptors, my Sarco, my Moss Chops, and then my Phiomia. That was an addition. I don't think I got that on video for you guys, but not enough eyes to really care. Am I right? So bear with me as I fly back. While this is taking place, I do want to cover a few things. Now there are some very distinct differences between playing offline or on a dedicated / non-dedicated server and playing online or on unofficial / official. Although official doesn't exist anymore, but you get the point. The first one is that Sarcos can actually dismount you on single player and non-dedicated. They disable this feature for online play for some weird reason. Maybe it's not meant to be that way, and it just turned out that way since something got messed up with the coding. Who knows with ARK, right? Another thing is that raptors have a shrieking ability when you imprint on them and take them away from the pack, and you can use that non-stop. I don't think the same thing exists for online. I don't even think raptors get that pack glow online. I would have to double check myself or have one of you guys correct me, but I'm 99% sure that the raptors don't get the pack boost online. Another difference is what is it? The Thylas. I'm sure lots of you know this one. For online, the Thylas are buggy at best. I would say 9 out of 10 Thylas you come across in the redwoods that are stuck to trees, they're just ornaments. They're glued to the tree, and when they try to pounce their pounce attacks, they just get stuck to the tree. And essentially, the pounce attack is disabled for 9 out of 10 Thylas online. While offline and non-dedicated, you will get hit every single time there's a Thyla on a tree and you come within range of it. Additionally, with that, Thylas on the ground for online, they will flip when you're out of rendering distance, and if you punch them, they will turn back to where they're actually facing, although you're seeing them face a different way. Offline, that doesn't happen, and they actually have an extra ability in offline mode, and that is wherever you turn your camera and hit the jump button, the Thyla will turn and jump in that direction. Offline, that's disabled. Again, I don't know why. Here I'm showing you that the game actually forces your hand in single player on these broken ass maps to use admin commands to play the map the way it was designed. And that is, when you come across a drop, you're like, well, I'm here, I wasted the time coming here, so I want to get the damn drop. It forces you to use fly and ghost just to get these buggy ass drops that sink into the ground. And some of them are fully submerged. But you just go fly and ghost, and then you can go through all of the objects in the map, and that wasn't worth my time. And then to disable it, you simply type in the command walk. But make sure you're out of the ground so that you do not fall through the map. Pretty easy thing to do to avoid is falling through the map. Just take a little bit of fall damage if you're really that nervous. Just go higher up than you think you should. Another thing that is different from online versus offline is the let's see, the auto courage on Doedicurus. I call them Yeti-ranuses, I call them Yetis, even though there are Yetis in the game. However, they're untamable and they only exist in caves, at least on the island. I don't know about other maps, but aside from that, they're tameless. You cannot tame Yetis, and I don't know, man. I've always called Doedicurus Yeti, and I've confused people before, and I just wanted to clear the air on that, I guess, in this video. My conscience was telling me to do so, so I did that. But the Yetis, you can't use the courage ability without riding them for online mode. That was the ground slam attack that I was talking about. And then obviously single player, they have the auto courage. And now let's heal everybody a little bit. Lots of fun dinos on this map. Man, oh man, what a shame. I wanted to tame one of those Magnarmers, or whatever the hell they are. The anorexic wyvern looking things. Who knows, I might just force tame one before I actually close up shop here, so that it wasn't a complete waste of time, and I definitely don't want to come back to this map and start all over again. But I'm gonna take out my Dinopithecus and show you what that's all about. I did manage to tame those ones naturally. I haven't force tamed anything and I always steer away from that unless the game fucks me somehow. Although I've never had to force tame anything aside from 1 giga, and that was because I knocked it out. I didn't have enough biotoxin. It woke up, I went back to my base to get some, and it disappeared. So I spawned in another one and force tamed it at the same level, which was level 15. But again, those are the things that you have to do when good old ARK fucks you. It fucks you real good. But that didn't last long either, because I erased my save data on that map too, and that was when I uninstalled the game for a last attempt to fix these blue screen errors. But Doedicurus takes 0 fall damage, and the sleep ability is, I mean, it puts the Thyla to shame. As it should, since it's a map-specific dino. But for anybody who hasn't seen one or ridden one, they are the new ultimate enemy of the redwoods. You think Thyla are bad, you run into a pack of these things, they will rip you to shreds. And you can't carry them with an RG. So that was one other thing that I wanted to cover, since I'm kind of tying up all my loose ends in this one last installment of Lost Island long play, is the reason that I enable wild dino carry, so the ability to pick up wild dinos with your RG, is just quality of life. It's as simple as that. Normally what I would do on official is tame an Equus and craft the lasso, and you can lasso a decent number of dinos with using the Equus and the lasso ability. Just know that you can't craft a lasso with a horse and then take the lasso and use it on another dino. You can only use the lasso while you're on the horseback, and yeah. But you can drag a bunch of different dinos that you wouldn't expect to be able to around the map, and that was a workaround for the official settings not being able to carry wild dinos. So that was the Doedicurus. I've shown you the bear with the wood, the trike with the thatch, the saber-tooth with the flint, and I'm going to take my alpha raptor out for a little spin. Not too long, just enough to get one last ride in, but showing you that I wasn't full of shit when I said I do have some guilty pleasure dinos, and this is one of them. Getting that raptor up to an alpha's movement speed, and then you could say they get the same, roughly the same damage too, since you get that imprint buff, which is I think 30% or 50% increased melee damage with a 30% damage reduction. So it's essentially like riding an alpha, and to me that's pretty badass. But it's gonna be short-lived. I won't take it too long on this little journey, and then I did want to showcase one particular finding that I thought was interesting, and it's probably why a lot of you have come to watch this video, and that is Doedicurus versus the Ankylosaurus on gathering crystal and obsidian. Which one's better, the Doed or the Anky? Is the Anky better at crystal? Is the Doed better at obsidian? And you will be surprised to find out what the conclusion is. Before I get into that, as I make my way back to my base, there is one dino that I feel so silly to have overlooked in my alternative harvesting dinos, and that is actually technically two dinos. I just want to mention that I do realize the Ankylosaurus exists as a stone, oil, obsidian, metal gatherer. However, on vanilla maps and maps that don't have all the resources underwater like that, you're forced to utilize the cryopods to put them in places like on the island. There's the murky pond over on the, what is it, the east coast, close to the east coast, that has those metal nodes in it. So what I would do is cryo the Ankylo and throw it into that murky pond, and essentially that's where I have my base. So I use that as my metal harvester. That aside, the one that I failed to mention that I feel silly about is the woolly rhino for berries. I would almost go as far as to say that the woolly rhino almost outperforms the Bronto when it comes to berries. And that's because the woolly rhino has such a wide attack radius. Couple that with the fact that it operates just like the bear. Not like the trike, it literally is just like the bear in that it gains momentum over time. I don't know if it has the same capabilities as the bear, where it doesn't become impaired by having more weight in it, or if it does actually slow down from having more, like 50% or more of its carrying capacity. But take my word for it, try it yourself. If you don't believe me, woolly rhinos, you're like, I've never tamed one, I never thought they had a use. Mark my words, you will not regret taming one for berries. Here we go, down to the nitty gritty. As you can see here, at rates of 1.75 harvesting, my Doedicurus got 3, almost 4 stacks of crystal out of one swing. Again, this map is Lost Island. Obviously, I'm going to put the crystal in the RG since it gets a weight reduction. And now I'm going to try a metal node. Again, this is to back my previous video of alternative resource gathering dinos. You can see here I completely took away that metal node and it gave me only stone. Now I do realize that harvesting amounts are directly tied to the Doed and Anky melee stat, but this is just showing you whether or not they can harvest and how much of it. So here's an obsidian node. What? What's that? Wait, what? No obsidian? Hold the phone. Let's check this out here. Get a closer look. Yeah, that's an obsidian node. No freaking obsidian. Didn't I just mention in my last video that the Doedicurus got more obsidian than the Anky, and the Anky got more crystal than the Doedicurus? That's a mystery. Here I am on the island, not Lost Island, the island. This is the Anky on an obsidian node, as you can see clear as day. I got a little bit of metal, same amount of obsidian roughly, and twice the amount of stone. Here's an Anky on a crystal node. Twice the amount of crystal as stone, and then I got that added little perk of getting those rare mushrooms, which you can use to tame kangaroos. Not sure if they have another use. But now I'm going to switch to the Doedicurus. And I do apologize for not showing the Anky on Lost Island, but the thing that confused me the most was the fact that the Doedicurus didn't get any obsidian from those nodes. So here I am on the island map at the volcano with the Doedicurus. Here's an obsidian node. What will happen? What the fuck? Look at that shit. So, after all these years of people speculating and debating and arguing, the game is broken. Who would have thought? So, each one can harvest those nodes. It all depends on what the map has programmed for that dino. And let's go test that crystal node now, baby. We've got obsidian out of the way, and you saw with your own eyes. It did not gather obsidian on Lost Island, and just there at that node on the island, it did. Doedicurus did gather obsidian. So, what's it gonna be with crystal? What are your bets? Let's go. Place your bets. Here we go. Place them. Time's running out. Place your bets. Time's up. Survey says... What the fuck? 0 crystal. Ain't that a bitch?